Welcome to the Narrate podcast, where we aim to tell God's story with our lives. We'll be continuing to post the Sunday message each week, but we want to dive a little deeper and offer some content to supplement your life with God, and that's where our Beyond Sunday series comes in. Join Adam and Narrate staff as they provide thoughtful discussions, ideas, and interviews that go beyond the message you'll hear on Sunday.
Hi Narrate, Hannah here. The following is a conversation with Jake and Alissa Heaton. If you know them, you know they are awesome. They lead our weekly Narrate middle school group. We are also joined by my husband Scott. Together, Scott and I have the privilege of leading our weekly Narrate high school group. In this conversation, we get to chat all things students, hear a little of our stories, and why we are so passionate about spending intentional time with students. Enjoy!
Alyssa's going to go first.
Oh, I'm starting.
Great.
Okay. Well, I'm Alissa Heaton. So we've been doing middle school now for 4 years. 4 years now. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a wild, crazy start, and now we've kind of found our flow and have a lot of fun. So great group of kids this year too, which is nice.
Yeah, I'm Jake. Alyssa just answered all of the questions, which makes my life easy, which is kind of what Sunday evenings look like. Alyssa leads the way, and I entertain the kids. But yeah, I've been doing this for 4 years. Been really kind of cool over the last few years to see the transition in the kids. You know, we had a lot of 8th graders one year. This year we've got a really good group of 6th graders coming up, and you know, kind of a good mixture of students, and so it's been a lot of fun. We have, you know, crazy Sunday nights, and so we gather every Sunday at our house from 6 to 8 o'clock, and yeah, just have a good time, you know, eat some food, play some games, you know, do a little message, and then you know, just kind of end with some crazy shenanigans. So it's been a good thing. Like Alyssa said, you know, we kind of, I think, getting our footing a little bit better, and you know, it's been fun to learn and grow with the kids as well. So that's the rewarding and fulfilling thing to me. It's not just for the kids, it's, you know, stuff that we get out of it as well every Sunday.
Scott Drga. Been doing middle school and high school youth ministry, Narrate, for ever since been part of a Narrate, and you could say that that's kind of the reason I'm part of Narrate. Was part of middle school youth ministry at the sister church of Journey in Bozeman before coming to Helena. Before Hannah and I were married, we were part of that ministry and got recommended of like, oh, you should check out Narrate, and I got connected with the middle school youth group before I was even moved to Helena. Kind of was that transition. So it's been a large part of being connected to Narrate. That kind of transition started out with the middle school, then took that group and moved into high school. As they went through high school, we moved up with them, and then went back to middle school, and then we're kind of on our second round of high school students as we have a great group of kids, and really enjoy it. And it's been a big part of my life, and if I look past kind of like why I do youth ministry or why it's important, it's always been a big part in my life, kind of those figures, and yeah, it's always been a big part of my life as I look at the people that were really instrumental in my faith grounding and building up, and it was always kind of connected into a youth group or like a strong figure in those relationships. So I really wanted to pass that on to future generations, and really enjoying it. And I think we have a ton of fun each week and get to dig into the Bible and have food and relationship, and it's really awesome seeing them in their own space and creating that space for them to live life and dig into their faith a little bit.
Yeah, you hit on an interesting point of kind of why it's important to you, is because you had experiences growing up that were impactful in student ministry. So did you guys have any like experiences in student ministry, or what led you to be passionate about hanging out with middle schoolers every week?
Yeah.
At this stage in life.
I mean, ministry was a big part of growing up for me too, youth ministry. And I was really lucky, when I started middle school up through probably like the first year or so of my high school, we had an absolutely amazing youth group leader at our church. And, that's what he did, was youth stuff. And, we got to go to, growing up in Colorado, we did things like Choir of the Fire, those kinds of things. We did those growing up. And, it was really fun. I mean, we drove to Denver. It was like a 4-hour drive on a super old school bus, but like the memories were great. And I grew up in a really small rural church, so majority of the youth group was my cousins, so it was like family reunion every Sunday. But there was a lot of just really fun times, and a lot of the parents after there was transition in our youth leadership, a lot of our parents took over, and so like parents had a rotating schedule. And but it was, I don't know, it was just really fun. You got to learn a lot from different people in our church. And I actually went to another youth group on Wednesday nights, because ours was on Sundays. And, we just had fun it was a whole different group of people. It was the in-town crew. So we had a lot of fun with them too. So I guess, I don't know, I've been doing, it was like Scott said, it's been a huge part of my life. And then I had the luck, I guess you could say, of going to a Christian college and getting to dive into, student ministry on like a collegiate level, but also getting to interact with some volunteer stuff with, mostly middle schoolers. And so that was a lot of fun too. But yeah, middle school's a unique age group.
Having just spent an hour with 6th graders.
They're wild.
They are wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
It's a good wild.
It is a good wild.
No,
Yes.
they are great, fun kids. Just a lot of energy.
They make you feel really old at the end of the night, though. Like, they'll be saying things, and sometimes you just look at them, and you have no clue what just came out of their mouth.
It's a whole new language. And we
is.
we haven't been out of school that long, and I'm like, wow, I got old really, really fast.
It's been a minute, but...
Even from the previous high school group
Yeah.
to this high school group, I'm like,
Yes.
you guys gotta teach us the lingo again.
Right.
They're like, I
We're old.
don't think you should know the lingo. You're fine.
They try to use it, and they're like, that was like 3 years ago. I'm like, oh, I'm just catching up to it.
Right. I'm learning that, like, things that our toddler likes, though, really work well with middle schoolers.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
That's
Like,
awesome.
we showed them the dancing fruit. I don't know if you've ever seen dancing fruit, but literally all it is fruit jamming out to a song on the screen, and they just bounce off the screen, and they will watch it forever and just like dead silent.
Yeah, that's the quietest they are, is when they're sitting there mesmerized, just like our 16-month-old
Yeah,
looking at the screen.
16-month-old who's just
that's the
as
key.
obsessed.
Parents are listening right now. Dancing fruit. Send them
That's
in the
Middle
room, and-
schoolers, it works well.
For sure.
It's just funny, and they love it. They're like, "When are we gonna watch Dancing Fruit?" I'm like, "I don't know. We just showed it to you because Addie was watching it." But they're funny.
That's amazing.
So yeah, my story is very similar to Alyssa's. So I grew up around youth group, and same thing. We went to the same Wednesday night youth group, and that was, I think, some pretty powerful, good leaders there that just allowed us to have a space. Tons of kids. I think our Sunday nights are crazy. I can't imagine. And I think there was 25 to 50 kids every night just running around like nuts, but it was always a really good time, and just chance to kind of have a place to get away from school, get away from the stresses, and have adults that seemed like they were cool. So hopefully that's us. hopefully that's us, and they're not like, hey, what are these lame people doing hanging out with us? But just the chance to, I think, kind of let your hair down a little bit and talk about some tough things that you don't necessarily want to discuss with your family or some peers or teachers that wouldn't dive into stuff like that. So that was why I think it was really important for me to get into that and realize that is a big part of what my upbringing was. So did that, and then I also had a Sunday night youth group that we would do with my church, and a little bit more traditional structure, which I think was good as well. Just kind of have a little bit of seeing a couple different aspects and approaches to youth group. And then also I moved around as a kid. So my dad was a football coach, so we were kind of moving around. I was in Denver for a while. I was in this small town where Alyssa and I grew up for a while, and just seeing different approaches to it, and just but the main thing was having strong leaders that I think I felt comfortable with. And that's what I think we're trying to create is, some nights might be a little bit more structured than others. Some nights we might not get a whole lot accomplished, but just having a safe, nice place for the kids to show up and feel like they're comfortable. That was pretty important to me. Then moving into college, again, stresses of college and changing over, learning lots of different things. I went to a fellowship of Christian athletes on one night a week, and that was, again, just a good escape, a good place to be able to just, have other people that were going through the same thing that I could chat with and bounce things off of. And so, it's always been a pretty big part of my life, and so that's kind of, I think, what drew us in. Alissa was like, hey, we should lead the youth group and middle schoolers, and originally I was like, what the heck, I don't know if I can do that, but it's been something that I think I've really enjoyed and come to appreciate, just because it is such an important thing in shaping young kids. So
I wanted to touch on something you said, Jake, too, which correct me if I'm wrong, or if you've realized this in your guys' youth ministry. Like, when growing up through different youth groups, like on like the parenting side, or what I noticed, like my parents, like growing up in the church, like my parents were like instrumental in my development, but there was some aspects of, like, they would teach me things, and it didn't quite click until I had like a second adult say, like, hey, you should like do this, and I'm sure 5-6 years down the road, my parents were probably like, we've been saying that all along. So to the parents listening, I guess what I'd say, like, you can do everything right, and I think you just, and one of the things that we enjoy helping with is, like, we can reiterate some of those things that you've been saying in a different atmosphere, and it like kind of clicks for the student a little bit.
Well, and I think
it's
that's
something that their parents didn't say, even though it's the same thing their parents are saying.
Yeah, it's part of that. I think it's part of being a kid. Like, I even remember, your parents tell you things all the time, and then someone else says it, and you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So I think that is just part of being a kid. But I think that's a great thing why we do what we do, is because they need that other person sometimes to tell them. And what I like too is, like, seeing the group of kids that we've had kids that are in various stages of their faith, which is really cool. And it's fun to see them grow, and some who are, very timid about faith, like, my mom made me come to this kind of a thing, but you see that they're really invested in it, and it really does mean something to them. And the conversations that you get to are really, really fascinating.
Yeah, there's some times where it's like, oh wow, I didn't expect that out of that person.
Right.
And so it's one of those kind of rewarding things. It's like, some of this stuff is really, sticking. It may not seem like it when you've got the craziness going on, but I think repetition and the ability to have a place every single week to just carve out that time to discuss those topics is impactful. So whether or not, no matter, like Alissa said, where they're at in their faith journey, I think just having that discussion and getting them to maybe start thinking a little bit more that way, if that's not their tendency, or the ones that are really, really do take that very seriously, having a group of kids where you can see that next to you, see somebody else that's really trying to be thoughtful with their faith. It's, I think, a great place for people to see a variety of stages. So.
Were you guys with us when we did the Good Samaritan parable video?
Yeah.
Series? Yeah. That was a good one.
They were really good.
They were, and like that's one, so when we do our Sunday night meetings, we usually, play lots of games, and then we watch a video series because we found that works the best. But the one that we did find was and we've actually watched it multiple times, and so some of the kids have seen it a few times, but they're really eager to watch it again. And so that was a really fun one that I liked, and you got some really interesting conversations out of it, because it's a parable that you've heard, if you've been in the church since you were little, you've heard it many, many times, but like it was how many series? It was like a 3 or 4 part series. And so like just, the visuals and the way the videos were done were phenomenal, but the way it made the kids think about things, it was really interesting too. And so it's kind of cool to see them, even if you watch the same video once or twice, to see how their minds change, or just how differently they think about it versus just reading it out of the Bible too. And
just I think the visual, especially in day and age with what kids are surrounded by that type of stuff. To take something that maybe is harder to really visualize and comprehend when you're just reading the Bible, to have it illustrated in a place that is, I think, a little bit easier to comprehend or take in, not necessarily comprehend, but like visualize and connect with a little bit better. That's, I think, why we've enjoyed those video series. So Alissa, she mentioned earlier, having gone to a Christian school, we have access to different videos and series that she as an alumni. As an alumni, she gets access to that, and I think it's been really interesting because there's certain topics that we've had the kids say, okay, do you want to learn a little bit more about this, or did you like that video? There's Bible Project videos that we've had them look at too, which is again just makes it connect a little bit better. So.
The best part is we're watching one of those, I think it's newer, however that group says, the ones from Ireland. We're watching another one of theirs, and they're super fun.
Such a fun
They
series.
love it, but sometimes we have to slow it down a little bit, and we're like, okay, what did they just say?
Put the subtitles on. It's like they're speaking
there's few
English.
people, but
different English.
yeah. But like, so like right now, this one's all about influencers and like who's the influences in your life and all that kind of stuff. It's been really interesting. I think we have one more video on that, but yeah, they're fun. It's fun to hear their thoughts on the videos too, because they not only talk about the message and everything, but we watched one with Sadie Robinson, and they're like, she talks way too fast, and we're like, yeah, I picked up on that too. Sorry, guys. So like, okay.
But even then, it's like, man, that's
Right.
a Duck Dynasty reference, and they have no clue
Oh,
who that
gosh.
is. I'm like, that wasn't that long ago.
It was not that long
No.
ago. Oh,
awesome.
dear.
Like,
Okay.
Who is that girl that talks really fast? Sadie?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Or in the influencer one, they talked about, like celebrities that have talked about their Christianity, and they chose, this was done a while ago, so they chose Kanye West and like Justin Bieber, and we're like, okay, you have to take these with a grain of salt, because this was before they went a little crazier.
Listen to what they're saying and the message, but maybe the reference isn't quite
The
there.
references might be a little dated at this point, but
that's
it was kind of
hilarious.
funny. I don't think they even got that.
Yeah.
It was like, okay.
They're so far past Justin Bieber and Kanye
Oh, I
West.
know.
Like, they
Oh
don't
my
even know who that is.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I was like,
We,
oh yeah.
we feel that with the playlist that is selected.
Oh.
We're like, we're not fully sure about what these artists are.
Right?
That's how it is.
Yeah, I don't even know who half of the artists are that they pick. And they're like, well, it's youth group appropriate, right?
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah.
Okay. Well, you're not still playing Boys in the Sink for you guys?
Yeah.
Oh, go for it.
Oh, no, just to the point of diversity, I was thinking about that too, of like where different students are in understanding or like working through, able to have that space for them to do that, but simultaneously of like where they're at, like logistically in the valley too. Like we have, a couple kids from Capitol, a couple people from Helena High, a couple people from East Helena.
One kid who's
Homeschooled.
homeschooled.
Yeah, so like that's
so
interesting
yeah.
to like see too, and I think that was surprising to them too when they first came together. Like, oh, we're not all from the same school even, and to to see those connections outside of their normal routine has always been really fun.
Yeah. Well, and this year, so I've been doing Narrate Kids for a long time now too, and so this is the first year I've actually had a lot of my Narrate Kids come up, and so it's been a whole different dynamic than the last few years, because a lot of those kids weren't here for kids, or like they, their families came in later, and so this year like they already all kind of know each other, which is really interesting and really kind of fun. It's just a whole different dynamic than the high schoolers you guys have now that we had in previous years, because they know each other, and they do things outside, and they outside of youth group together and outside of school, but we still have almost every school represented. At one point we had every school in the valley, from like St. Andrews all the way to homeschool, and
Oh, yeah.
yeah, Clancy and Montana City, and yeah, it's crazy the number of groups that like where kids are coming from, and so it's been kind of fun. But yeah, it changes a lot. Even in the 4 years we've been doing it, it's changed.
It kind of like it speaks to the diversity of Narrate too, like of the different, like having a place built on on Sunday, it kind of spills out into the other
Yeah.
aspects of the week too.
Mm-hmm.
Different people being able to connect from different areas of the valley or backgrounds, or I think it's always pretty great.
Yeah.
I think it's fun to see is our high schoolers are getting older and they are learning to drive and different things. I always think that's a great personal validation for me of like, oh well, they can drive and they show
They
up.
choose to come now.
They choose to come. I
Be
think that's
here,
always
yeah.
Yes.
all right. Like, so they are coming. They are saying that they are coming, and they are coming.
They are showing up.
We've talked a little about the structure of middle school. Do you want to talk, Scott, a little about the structure of what we do on Wednesdays?
Yeah. One of our key pieces is food. So we'll usually have some pizza, or we're shaking it up a little bit. We're going into some different meals of spaghetti and some.
Mm-hmm. Even that's changed, because with our first group, you could give them 15 pizzas and a thing of Mountain Dew, and they were happy. And this group is like, well, it's not super healthy.
It's all good.
They're just
things.
a lot more health conscious, which is fine, but it's very interesting.
Some homemade mac and cheese.
The mac and cheese.
Do that a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
So getting them around the dinner table to eat. There's something about having food, sharing a meal with someone. I think that helps the bonding experience across. See that even when you travel, like when you share a meal with someone from a different culture, that's a big piece. So having a meal together, that's a key piece. That the stories of the week really come out in that time too. That's probably half hour to an hour, depending on what their weeks were like. If it was a stressful week with tests and studying, I think that is longer, or if they are excited about different sports activities that that kind of is where that morphs into how the evening's gonna be. So that wraps up there. Then we like to transition to a different space for more discussion in the Bible and what this year what we're doing, and something that we thought that even personally for us it would be good for us to do, and I think it fits well with the high schoolers, is like taking some of the key stories in the Bible and kind of doing them in chronological order. So we're started in Genesis and kind of moving through the major stories to really pull out major themes and kind of trying to kind of keep the focus towards Jesus in the New Testament. So we have big sticky notes that we throw out on the wall each week, and they get to write down what the main points of each week was. Then with that, sprinkled through that, there's some question cards that we do to spur on conversation.
They really like the question cards. That's been really fun. Instead of the well, how was your week? How was your week? Like, it's some really good cards that we bring out different, fun angles that you might not think to ask about, but it's been really fun.
We've done some of those that's been pretty fun, where it's get a fire just in the backyard, and it's all right, random questions, and you're going to pick the next question, and kind of just seeing what conversations come about it. It's anything from serious ones, relationship, school, peer pressure, to what's your favorite cereal and why, and all those kind of random things, and see where the conversation goes. And so those have actually been some of my more favorite nights, is just get a campfire going in the backyard and just see where the conversation goes. And sometimes it gets derailed, and who knows, but other times it's then you can bring it back into, okay, let's ask a little bit more serious or faith related question, and see what we get out of that. And the answers sometimes surprise you, so it's kind of cool.
And
that's awesome.
Part of that too, talking with some of our students that from our first group that are now graduating college, and just ask, we're not dating ourselves, are we? And asking some of their what they enjoyed, or as they were in college, what they enjoyed the most, and some of the nights that we thought we didn't had zero discussion whatsoever, were those were some of their favorite nights because they were able to like decompress from what they were doing from the week. So.
Exactly. That one winter retreat we did where we had a broken collarbone, urgent care visit, illness, van got stuck in the ditch.
Yeah.
And we were like, this has been a disaster. And they were like,
Multiple
that was
people.
the best retreat ever.
One girl couldn't talk all week. And
She couldn't
lost
talk.
her
She lost
voice.
her voice the whole weekend. It was, we were like, felt so disorganized.
Nice. Note to self. So if we do a retreat, we gotta
I'm
have
terrified to do
everything go
retreats.
wrong.
Yeah,
No,
we
but-
haven't for a few years now.
I'm like, I need a
After
lot
that
of extra
experience.
support to do a retreat because I'm like, there's no way I can get it all figured
Right,
out.
If you're listening, I'm petitioning for some more retreats.
Right.
Yikes.
If you're listening, volunteer to help.
Would you like to come help?
Right? All hands on deck.
Yeah. It's a bit undertaking, but I
It
always
is.
think about the retreats I did, different experiences, and they were big moments. It was fun to
Yeah.
go to a different town,
Yeah.
be crazy.
Well, I mean, when we did the Acquire the Fire stuff, we had a sister church in Denver so we came from tiny rural place into Denver, so, it's big, it's crazy. This church was like 3 stories. It was huge. And we would stay overnight in this church, and we would always play sardines
Gotta
in
be
this church.
sardines.
Yeah.
And
That's a
yes.
youth group. Just
there
staple.
are some fantastic places to hide in this church, and they just let you go free. And so yeah, there's some great memories in that. No one injured themselves though. Thank goodness. I don't think we ever had to go to the ER. So that never happened.
We've had some injuries.
Yeah, they're crazy.
Yeah. I think overall, though, our structure and our routine, I always hope, provides them with a safe place where they can just come, be themselves. They don't have to worry about, what happened at school or what's happening at home. Like, they can just come and ask questions. There's no, other than be kind and respectful, there's no expectations of, you're going to do this or we have to do this. Like, it's really, we always just hope it's a space for them and they can make it their own as they'd like. And I think that's turned out pretty well for us. I hope.
Yeah.
I guess we'd have to ask them. They keep showing
it's
up.
a trust,
So.
trust aspect for us and simultaneously,
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the greatest compliments we hear too, so we must be doing something right, is we get, whenever we have to cancel or we're gone or whatever, we get parents that are like, my kid's kind of mad. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry we can't be there. But so I think we must be doing something right. But if nothing else too, they get 2 happy dogs that greet them and 1 very happy toddler. So I think that's the highlight of all 3 of their weeks. And
That's awesome.
so
Well, and I think that's one of the nice things about it, because we had played around with, okay, do we do it at 326 or something like that, and we've done a couple there, and it doesn't feel as warm and welcoming. That's a great space, but it's like something about being in somebody's home that has welcomed you into their house, and you're gonna climb on the furniture with the dogs and wrestle around with Addie and do all that type of stuff. Like, I think that's just you can feel like you're more comfortable there. And so the first few weeks it's like kids come in and there's these crazy dogs that are wiggling around and love them so much, and then they're not totally sure about it by the end of the year. It's like, oh yep, we're loving up on these dogs and
now they're
jamming
best
out
friends.
to
And
dancing fruit with 16-month-old. So
That's awesome.
I never thought that would be the thing that they love.
I love that so much.
Something else, but
I think that was, for me, the student ministry that was most impactful was in college, or just after we graduated, when CJ and Sarah, this couple from Journey, welcomed all of these crazy college kids into their house every Sunday.
Maybe about
And
30 people every week.
They had a great house, and 30, 40 college kids would show up, and just that feeling of like, oh, I have a house away from my house. There's this other space with people who care about me. And there was discussion, and they always fed us, which was a big deal.
Yeah.
It just felt like, there's a place you can go and belong. That always just felt so comforting. And so I've always thought, and you were a part of that too, so we've always thought we want to model that, replicate that in the best way we can for other students because that was so valuable for us. I mean, they walked us through our premarital stuff before our wedding.
Yeah.
So it was a big relationship.
Not in the group, but that was separate.
Not in the group of...
Come on, you didn't want to do it with like 30 other college kids.
Yeah. Yeah, it always goes back to, like, one thing Narrate and Adam always stresses, like, the who's in your life or the connections there. And that's always been my background in youth ministry, too, is that there's always people that care for students or like that and that you can connect with, and that translates into so many more aspects.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because, like, you know, food is a big part of it now, but then when you think back on it, you kind of forget the food and you remember all the other things that you did. Because even now you're sitting like, oh yeah, we did have a lot of food when we were in our youth group too. And
speak for yourself. The food is what I remember.
Okay. Okay.
Why do you think we're sending everybody home with sugar every single week just because I want them to remember the food?
Yes.
But it's
the parents know.
Apologize.
I know. No, but we've done. I think that aspect you guys mentioned, you know, it's getting everybody around the table. We do it a few times where we'll like all make pizzas together and make meals together, and I think that's impactful. That's important.
Yeah. We have made them make their own dinner, which is fun.
That's a good idea.
It was a lot of fun. We did homemade pizzas, and we got some very fun, interesting pizzas.
Nice.
That was one of my favorite things from that was a retreat we did a few years ago. It was like, all right, you guys pick a meal you want to make, and we'll get the stuff. But that was
that's right. We made them cook for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, fun!
That was fun.
So everyone had a competition to see who cooked the best.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
There was a competition between homemade mac and cheese and boxed mac and cheese.
Thanks. That's a battle.
I mean, when the boxed mac and cheese was still crunchy.
Oh no.
Wasn't really a competition.
It's a little too al dente. We
I
did.
forgot about that.
Yeah.
That was fun.
One year, and we just got to be a group number where we kind of outgrew our kitchen table. So it got hard to like have everybody sit around the table and have a meal. But we did one year, like once a month, we would have, you know, a family bring dinner, and then we would serve it. But our one caveat was you're not allowed to serve yourself. You can only serve other people. So like you can't ask for someone to pass you the napkins, or you can't, you know, ask for seconds. Like you have to be watching other people and be like, oh, do you want more water? And then they might ask you in return if you want more water, you know, that kind of thing. But that was really, really fun. And
That'd be stressful.
one year,
I love that idea.
I think one year we did it during Easter too. And so like every time they messed up, they like started with like 5 Easter eggs or something. And every time they asked for something, we like took an Easter egg away, and they were like, "Oh no!" It was funny. Yeah, it was funny. But that was something I remember doing growing up. It wasn't. I don't think it was a youth group thing, but it was some other, you know, some other group thing that we did where they did that, and I just remember that being like, oh, like it's hard to serve other people, and even, you know, at a meal, and like where you're not doing something difficult, but it's been a lot of fun. So
You gotta bring that one back out.
Yes,
That's a good
we
one.
should.
What do you guys do about cell phones?
So we don't really have a lot of cell phones in our group. Like there's still kids that don't have cell phones, and so most of them keep them in their pockets. It's not a huge problem yet. At one point we collected them in a basket a couple nights because they wouldn't leave them alone.
That was one of our rules. We said, you know, respect one another.
Yeah.
And I don't remember all that we went through, but one of them was, you know, just no cell phones for this couple hours, and for the most part they've really respected
they're usually
it.
pretty good. Yeah, we've only had a couple times where we're like, all right, put your phones in the basket because you're not doing anything else. And
That harder at the high school level, I'm sure.
It's hard. I think it's harder. We haven't come out with like a strict rule yet.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't. It's not been too bad of an issue.
Yeah.
There have been a few times during our discussion where they've gotten lost in the couch, and I've said, you cannot find it until afterwards. Because I don't know how they got lost in the couch, but
it's there now. So.
Things get lost in the couch.
They kind of regulate each other sometimes when someone's not paying attention or not being respectful. Have you noticed that?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, wait, so-and-so's talking. Get off your phone. Or, you know
nice.
how they're like,
Yeah.
super blunt with each other.
They really are.
They do kind of self-regulate, which is fun to watch. That might be a good thing.
Yeah, it hasn't been an issue.
Pull out the phone basket. But it
Yeah.
hasn't been too bad, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think it's been a huge issue for us, luckily.
Yeah. Every once in a while they'll get like set on the counter, and then sometimes you're like, okay, whose phone is this? Like, you better break it home. Like, don't leave it here. I know you're not using it, but just don't lose it.
Well, and I think that's one of the things too with being pretty intentional about like games. So games are big. We love games, just me and Alissa, but that's where we started pulling them all out and getting kids playing games that they might not have played in the past, and so keeping them engaged with that type of stuff has been really good. And just I think everybody like I love getting around the table and playing games with friends, and so if that can be a nice space where, especially in the winter when it's hard to get outside and have them get their energy out, let's sit around and play all these random crazy games. And they've really, I think, enjoyed a lot of that. Telestrations, just a tip to families, go get telestrations.
Telestrations. I have heard about this from
have
the
you not
6th graders.
played that?
I think we did when we were with
played a
you
little bit
guys.
there.
And
We need to get the bigger edition now, but
That's their go-to.
that's
or
awesome.
Tenzi. This 6th grade group is really into Tenzi, which I love because I love Tenzi, and so
Yeah.
got a lot of competition there. So that's been good.
Awesome.
Yeah. But
I love games a lot too.
I do
And
too.
So, like, surprisingly, like this go around, it's like we get more into discussion.
They do get more into discussion.
Then it's like we run out of time for games. And it's like, oh, there's actually dessert in the games. All right, bye.
Okay, bye. Sorry, guys.
That's
Do they
good.
still want to play murder all the time?
No.
That was the game they always begged to play, was
Mafia,
murder
yeah.
or Mafia,
With the
whatever you want to
cards.
call it. Yeah.
Oh,
And then they
yeah.
like couldn't get through one round.
Like, this is why we don't play Mafia, because it's 20 minutes later, we haven't even made it through.
Still haven't started.
Yeah. Like, you don't have to snore when you go to sleep. You don't have to snore really, really, really loud.
But that's the one game they always ask. Can we play Mafia? Can we play Mafia? And
Every year, no matter...
we never
like,
get through it.
No matter the
That's
group.
when the
Yeah.
phone goes to sleep. And
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, and
I
you
really
you
enjoy
murder somebody, and
That is fun. But yeah, they haven't asked to
Can't
play
see your
that.
quotation.
I know they
It's
can't see my
unbelievable.
murdering quotations.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, we're not really murdering people. I promise.
Please bring your kids to youth group.
Yeah, no, that's like one of the most requested games. Which I also played that in growing up to a youth group, and
Yeah.
Totally.
we
Yeah.
also played in Murder in the Church, which was like you drew your cards, but then you walked around the building and like hid under the pews, and someone was walking around as the mafia, and they were tapping you, and then you had to like lay there dead, kind of things.
That's pretty
Yeah,
awesome.
we're not doing that in our house. Someone would fall down the stairs. I just know it. They're careful, but they don't pay that much attention.
Is there anything else you would want the Narrate community to know about youth groups, student ministry, middle schoolers, high schoolers? Any kind of final thoughts or words or quotes or comments or anything else?
I guess thanks for trusting us with your kids. I mean, they're definitely great kids, and yeah, it's kind of just an honor to live life alongside them, and they're teaching us just as much as we're living life with them and trying to teach them. I think that's one of the things I guess I would like to convey to the parents. Like, you guys have done a great job. We're honored to come alongside you to help them a little bit, and as it's kind of a crazy, like, schedules, timing, I know that all gets really crazy, sports and all that, and honored to be part of their lives, and it's been a ton of fun.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. I mean, I know we're kind of out of the way. We're out in East Helena, and it's commitment to parents to bring their kids out every single week. But I think that's been really cool to see. It continuing to happen year after year with new kids coming in and wanting to come out and spend that time. So I know that's a lot of crazy busy schedules right now. I think even back from when I was in middle school, I'm not gonna tell you when, but a while back. not that long, but it feels like it's changed. We had Wednesday nights was kind of our day where there was no sports or anything like that. That's changed a whole lot from when I grew up, where there was one night a week where it was kind of off limits to allow for activities like youth group. That's not the case, and so I applaud parents that make the time to want their kids to be coming to something like this, even when it's another night and another thing that they have to run them to. I hope they see value in that, and I hope that, thank you again for trusting us, that we're able to take your kids in for a couple hours a week and hopefully get them to leave with something, even, if it's just a couple people that they feel like they're comfortable with and can talk with and chat with, and no matter what the discussion is for that night, just being able to welcome them in, see how their week was, see what's going on, and see them grow. I mean, I think what is really cool with going from 6th grade all the way up to 8th grade, you change a whole lot in those 3 years. And so to see the maturity of some of the kids from when they came in, and it's like, oh wow, you're crazy, to by the end and when they graduate and they're 8th graders, kind of being a little bit more of the model to the younger kids that are coming in and figuring it out is really cool to see. And so, some of those changes that parents might not necessarily notice because they're around their kids all the time, to really see that year after year growth in their students, in their faith, and just maturity levels, all of that has been very, very cool to see. So thank you guys for trusting us, and it's been a really fun ride, and I think we're still learning. I think Alissa and I are learning as we go, and we every single year will continue to get a little bit better and realize what's working, what's not, but just really want to be that space that kids feel like they can be comfortable no matter what's going on in their life.
Yeah, and on that point too, I remember growing up too, like youth leaders, I remember them the most because they were also present outside of youth group too. And so like if your kids have sporting stuff for like plays or whatever coming up, we love that, and like we love to go to anything that we can. Of course there's a lot of them and not a lot of time, but we try to go to everything that we can, and so we, like Scott said too, we like to be present with them in their life. So if you guys ever have like sporting events or stuff you want to invite us to, we're happy to come. And so we've watched ice skating and some different plays, and it's just really fun to see. So we want to be there not just for them in church, but outside of church too. So
well, I think too, because a lot of the stresses, and we end every single week with, okay, does anybody have prayer requests, what we want to pray about this week? And a lot of it is related to school and stress and sports and extracurricular activities, all of those things that, thinking back, those were your stresses. And I wish that stresses in our lives as adults were those types of stresses, but those kids don't need to realize that, they've got a lot of really good things going on, but it's a stressful time to learn all of that and juggle all of that. So if we can be there alongside them to support them in some of those stresses that are really, a lot of things looking back that you're going to be excited about, that you have really good memories on all of those extracurriculars, that's important. But that only, I think, is important if you have people supporting you along the way. So whether or not it's parents or youth group leaders or teachers or coaches, I think that's really important to have those figures in your life.
Well, and I'm more than happy to make silly signs and stand there in goofy outfits too. I'm not afraid. But also one other thing I would say is don't be afraid to reach out to any of us if you have questions or if you have kids that aren't involved in anything yet. Like we're more than happy to meet you and get to know you, and even if you're like, okay, who are these people? We're happy to meet you before you come just like show up at our house too. We're more than happy to do that, and because I know it can be a little nerve-wracking if you're new or you don't know who we are. And I mean, we kind of blend in sometimes. We're everywhere and nowhere all at the same time sometimes, it seems. But yeah, we're happy to meet you. And I know sometimes it falls through the cracks, if you have a middle schooler and you're like, but why am I not getting this stuff? Just let us know. We're happy to add you and get you in the loop. And try not to drop the ball. We try really hard, but
yeah.
So.
Well,
you have to answer too.
I have to answer?
Yeah.
You're part of it too.
What was my question?
I don't know.
Anything else you want anybody to know?
Well, I think you guys really hit on a lot of good points. Like, I think just being a space for students, there's some statistic now that I cannot remember that says if students have just one stable adult outside of their family, just like one or two stable adults, the statistics for them just like really flourishing in life go way up. I think that's true. I read that somewhere. And I just think that you three, I don't speak about me, but you guys are amazing, amazing adults. And if I was a parent, I would love for my kid to hang out with you guys and be role models and spend time with you. So you guys are awesome. And I think that even though you guys are blend in very much in the Narrate community, you're always present and you're always there and you're always working hard and you're always ready to spend time with students. So I would just encourage anyone who is a middle schooler or high schooler and you're not involved yet, just some awesome people doing some good work. So nice job. Thank you guys. If you'd like to learn more about Narrate Church, find us online at narratechurch.org.
You can also look us up on Facebook or Instagram. Thanks for listening.